on the offensive end. That time, the Dallas Mavericks late on the rotation. Jason Terry does the double team. His man gets the basketball in Parker, but Josh Howard has to chase him off the spot. Does not, and Parker knocks down a shot.
Ball deflected. Good defense from Ginobili. Parker calls out the play.
Look how many times Tim Duncan has touched the basketball since the Spurs have turned this basketball game around. He is the guy that they are running their offense through.
He's become so good at passing out of the double teams. Offensive foul. He used the hook. He's got that look of disbelief that you occasionally see from Duncan. But Popovich doesn't agree. So Duncan picks up his first. And we'll take a break. He doesn't want to hear it.
And making plays.
Mama, there goes that man. Josh Howard knocks it down. Nowitzki has just been so unbelievable. And of course, the MVP candidate. Steve Nash is the other MVP candidate, has said that Nowitzki's his choice. And you know who just the other day also said that Nowitzki was his MVP was Dwayne Wade. They lost a turnover. Terry down the other end, stripped and fouled by Ginobili. And they're going to call it a two-shot foul. Of course, that made it interesting with the Wade situation. Early in the year, he had criticized or made comments about the reason Dallas didn't win the finals was because Nowitzki didn't lift his team up. Nowitzki handled the comments very, very well, as he always does. He's a class act and has just put together a fabulous season. But a lot of people lining up to say that man is the MVP of the NBA.
It really shows how Dwayne Wade is a true professional. Not going to allow that to get in the way of him showing some love. Dirk deserves it. Why not acknowledge it?
But then the previous comment was tough love there.
Good old-fashioned basketball.
Nowitzki will get a breather. Now Nowitzki has played his 28 minutes. Let's see if he comes back in the game. Again, Avery Johnson has, he won't say give his players a rest down the stretch. He says he wants to give them a pause. There he misses the free throw. And a technical foul call. I think it's on Tim Duncan sitting on the bench. Somebody on the bench for the Spurs. Yep, it's Duncan, who was unhappy with the lack of a call or a call earlier. And he said something to Joe Crawford. Now, Crawford, as we said, one of the best in the business, but he also has maybe the quickest technical in the NBA of all the officials.
Well, you see, going into the timeout, Joey said enough to Tim Duncan, and Tim Duncan says the ball does not lie. That's why the foul shot was missed. Joey Crawford sending a message saying, hey, I'm not going to get into the debate all afternoon long.
Duncan's laughing. Joe Crawford's not laughing. Harris again to the basket. Howard now drives inside right over Alberto, and a blocking foul. Joey Crawford saying Alberto moving. Popovich doesn't like that one either. And another technical foul. And this is when Duncan's out of the game. He's thrown Duncan out of the game. Crawford now walking over. That's the second technical, which is an automatic ejection. As we've been showing you, Duncan's been laughing. Maybe Crawford felt he was showing him up by constantly laughing. It'd be difficult to hear anything because of the crowd, and he was across the court. So Duncan is done. Greg Popovich very upset. He wants to talk about it. Now Crawford's going over to talk about it with Popovich. Again, a lot of it has to do with if you're showing up the referee. Duncan telling Michel Tafoya there, I think, I didn't say anything. But if he's sitting there laughing, then that Crawford feels like he's showing him up.
Well, at the same time, you're sitting there laughing. You have to understand, he already has one technical foul. Not the correct play if all he did was sit on the sideline and laugh. Tim Duncan means too much to his basketball team. Not saying a word, sitting there. Joey Crawford cannot read body language and automatically sit with a technical foul and send Tim Duncan out. He can be laughing at anything.
See, now Crawford made that last call, and that was Duncan laughing at the last call, the one on Alberto, and he just felt that he was showing him up.
You can't interpret that from long distance.
No, and at that point, let's face it, we talked. Joey Crawford's one of the best in the history of the game. 31st year. I mean, for many years he's been one of the tops. But sometimes maybe in an instance like that, you just don't look over there, look away. Let's go over to Michelle.
Well, I talked to Tim Duncan on his way off the floor. I said, did you say a word? And he said, no. I said, honestly, Tim, did you say anything? No, he adamantly said. And he had some choice language for Joey Crawford as he left the floor, guys.
We're getting this year on a hard foul. It's going to be an offensive foul on Alberto. He set a sharp screen, sending Howard to the floor. Alberto trying to argue, but not going to say too much. Let's watch. That's a tough call, boy. Howard looked like he just went flying into Alberto.
Well, if you're Alberto, you're saying, hey, I'm setting screens and I'm the one taking a beating and the call is made against me. That's just a solid screen. Howard does a job trying to fight through the screen. No question about it. That's a foul on Howard.
Now, Alberto, when the contact is made, extends his arms, which is what Sean Corbin called. Howard initiated that contact, almost forced him to do that.
Well, he's really trying to protect himself in that situation, seeing Howard come full steam ahead. Certainly the call should have been on Howard.
Now, again, we got to remember, and this is with the Duncan situation, as Harris misses the first free throw. This year, the NBA, really a point of emphasis was the player complaints and decorum. They had the lower tolerance policy earlier where there were a lot of technicals called. And you can get a technical, not necessarily for just profanity or constantly arguing, but what officials think is called overt action or demonstrative reaction. And again, Crawford probably thought that he was mocking him by laughing at him. Ginobili misfires. But in an instant like that, I agree with you, Mark, especially after he's already picked up one technical. You just kind of have to look away and forget about it.
Well, it'd be hard to sell the meat at the definition of what you just explained. What Tim Duncan did fits into that category. Bad second technical, bad ejection for Duncan for just laughing.
Vaughn on the drive. Ginobili inside, lays it in. I agree. So the Spurs will have to go the rest of the way without their leader. Stackhouse gets it off in time. Shot won't go. And that will end the third quarter. A little feisty. Not just between opponents, but players and refs, coaches and refs. Greg Popovich now calmly talking to Joe Crawford, trying to get more of an explanation. Third quarter complete here in Dallas. I'd love to be a fly on the wall for that conversation.